Hello, Miss Amir. I am so happy to see you for many reasons. One being that if I weren't here, I wouldn't know if this stuff was working or not. So um, my cursor on my laptop is taking a vacation without pre-authorization, and so I'm just having to do like the touch screen, which is fine. I'm happy that things are working mostly. How are you, my dear? Let me do a thing. See, I'm going to have to just like touch the screen each time I pin a message. So let me try to show off my jewelry. You guys haven't seen me in a few days because I fell down a rabbit hole full of beads and things and I couldn't get up. Man, this is why I don't make jewelry that often, because when I do, I can't stop. I'm such an addict. One is too many, 1,000 is never enough. So let me just show you this necklace because I know it looks kind of silly on, but it is effing beautiful, if I might say so myself. It's all resin beads. So they're not stone and they're not really plastic. I mean, kind of, but if you know what resin is, it's very high quality, groovy stuff. And yeah, it was very popular in the 70s. So this is all like upcycled. And if you can see how it's like an ombre, like a, is that so fun? And I don't know. I heard that Chunky is making a comeback, but hey, Sherry, what's happening? How you doing? Love the necklace. I've been it was like Saturday morning. I made the mistake, or not really, I'm being sarcastic, um, tongue in cheek. I picked up some pliers, jewelry pliers to work on one pair of earrings. And by Saturday night, I think I probably had about 20 pairs of earrings all recreated. They were my earrings that I don't wear so much. So I like just made little minor adjustments. Like this is one. Check this action out. Not to brag or anything, but come on. This is what I'm talking about. Can you see it? Is that, I don't know, my lighting. My lighting. You can kind of see it, huh? Like if I go like that. So it's very blue, and it was just like the teardrop, and that was it. So I added this little jump ring and stone to the top to make it just a tiny bit more dangly. That was mostly what I was doing on Saturday, that type of thing. But yeah, not mostly what I was doing all day. That's all I did for however many hours until, oh no, what have I done? Stop. Okay, phew. Man, this is going to be difficult. Okay. So, let's see. Don't think I made any of the rest of these, but inspired by Ms. Kylie Rodney to layer, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 necklaces on at the moment. And yeah. Oh, bracelets. So then I was making bracelets. This is one of my favorites right here. This is the last one. I remade all of these 3 times, third time's a charm. Check this puppy out. Can you see it? Let me do a little black background again. I'm not even sure what the stone is, but it is almost all the same stone, just different variations of the color. It's almost like what do you call? No, this is not QVC. I know, I'll get to the point. It's almost like carnelian. It might be carnelian, but oh man, it's also kind of like amber. And then there's a few that are gray, like see-through gray. And I've got my rose quartz with some crazy stone. And then I got this one. Let me take this one off too, and then I'll quit showing off my jewelry. So yeah, bracelets, necklaces, earrings. And this one was a necklace that broke. And again, I don't know what the those gemstones are. They kind of look like a light green turquoise, but I'm pretty sure they're not a light green turquoise. I don't know what they are. I think this one might be citrine. There's a little bit of peridot in here. There's some what I call aurora borealis, just glass with like the iridescence. Anyway, gone wild. Let's talk about some facts on some cases. Let's talk about, what's that song? Let's talk about sex, baby. That's funny. We're not going there. We're not going there. Let's talk about the plane crashes, you guys. It's so sad. It's so effing sad. The helicopter that went down, the last time I made a video, I think it was the same day or the day after that helicopter with the family of 5 went down. I want to talk about that for a minute. And then there was another plane crash with most of an entire family on it. That was the plane crash in upstate New York that went down on Sunday. 6 people passed away in that one. One of the people was named the NCAA Woman of the Year in 2022 at MIT. Both of the parents were physicians. The parents were both on the flight. The 2022 Woman of the Year from MIT was on the flight, and she was studying like neuroscience, I think, at New York University, working on her doctorate. And then her boyfriend and her brother and his girlfriend were the 6 on the plane. The dad was the one flying the plane. I find it really weird, oddly coincidental, that a lot of the folks in these crashes are extremely successful, prominent folks. And I wouldn't be so suspicious of that kind of thing if it wasn't all happening so close together while our government is in a tailspin and a massive crisis. I think people keep saying constitutional crisis, which I believe. Let's see. I got this new little notebook to keep in my purse. So I wanted to talk about the 20-year-old. I mistakenly said that she was 23 the other day. The student from the University of Pittsburgh that disappeared in the Dominican Republic. I think it's probably been 6 weeks now. Sadiska. I think it's Sadiska Kanaki. Yeah. I've been trying to watch other people say it in their videos so I can try to say it right. I apologize if I'm messing with her name. Sadiska Kanaki, who vanished from the beach. And at the resort, it's a huge resort and a lot of security cameras. And of course, the cameras weren't working when she disappeared. So some of these things make it look like they're just covering to try to say, yeah, it's safe. Nobody ever gets assaulted or abducted or red rummed. But some of these things really push the question of, is it trafficking? And I'm not saying that it is, because I actually think it is entirely likely that that boy from Iowa is guilty of her demise. But I don't know that he is. That's just my opinion. So everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation with you guys, open up a discussion, learn something. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. I'm so happy to see you, Sherry and Mrs. Amir. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to try to, I don't know if I can, yeah, see my cursor is still out of whack. And if I try to touch the comments to highlight them, I might hurt the stream. So I'm thinking I'm better off not doing that. I'll just leave it with Sherry's that says, hello, Jazz. How you doing? Love the necklace. Mrs. Amir says, just watch Evil Exist while waiting for you, and former worker made a TikTok exposing the hotel. Oh, is this, let me look, because I mentioned that Evil Exists is one of the very few channels that I watch to keep up with this case. And I have watched the last few that they've dropped. I'm wondering if this one was dropped since I last saw. Yeah, wait. No, this one, see, the artificial intelligence was listening. That's so wild. That's the top one that shows up 5 hours ago. Yeah, I don't think I saw this one yet. Let me see. Should we watch it together? Or it's so annoying. Right. The last one I watched was the resort withholding footage 8 hours ago. And so this one that you're speaking of is from 5 hours ago. And it's a long video for Evil Exists. Their videos are usually like 2 minutes long. That one is 6 minutes. Do you think I should play it? Yes, please. Okay, sure. Here we go. I'll give them some props. I really like this channel. Like, they're very concise, to the point.
I have been digging into the case of Sadiksha Kananki, as many of us don't believe that she drowned. There is no solid proof, as her body didn't wash up after almost 6 weeks, and not even an article of her clothing surfaced. Joshua Ryop says she was walking in knee-deep water, and then he vomited and passed out.
Oh, his story
her
makes
parents
zero
want her declared
sense.
legally dead, but many are questioning whether she could have been trafficked.
And the parents wanting her declared deceased is maybe a yellow flag. I mean, there'd be reasons for that as far as like an insurance policy, but I know I've heard some people on YouTube, and I think this is probably where they're going to go, speculating on maybe that it's a cultural thing. Like, there's just so much shame with trafficking that they're as good as deceased or worse than deceased.
It's a concerning case, to say the least. Anyway, I just came across a video from a former employee at the Rue Hotel. She wants to share her experience working there, and about something sinister that happened during her time there, after hearing about Sadiksha's disappearance. I tried my best to add English subtitles. Hope they are understandable.
Uh-oh.
Y bueno, he estado escuchando, he estado viendo que se ha hecho una polémica.
Here, I have been seeing that a controversy has arisen in my country.
En mi país ahora con una turista de origen hindú.
Now with a tourist of Indian origin named Sadiska, who has disappeared. And this I am going to...
De nombre Sudicha, que ha desaparecido. Y esto le voy a traer un story time, ya que Sudicha...
I'm going to bring a story time. Since Sadiska has disappeared at the Rue Hotel and has left no trace, neither by sky nor by sea, nor by water, or anywhere. I'm going to mute it so that I don't have to keep stopping it. Let's see. In 1996, I started working at the Rue Hotel as a cleaning girl, but lived with accommodation, where they give you the bed, the food. You live there until you get your time off. So in the same room where I was, there was a bed, but the closet was locked. You know that well. The people who have worked in hotels give you the bed, and they give you a closet that you have for your stuff. But that closet was locked, and that closet belonged to an employee named Sonia. And the other girl, I never got to know her name, but the other coworkers there said it was that Sonia had left. This is creepy. And Sonia had not returned. What could have happened to her? She was free, hasn't been seen since 1996. I started working and it was that topic in 1997. I remember we went down to eat at noon and a rush broke out. A tremendous scandal at the Rue Hotel in 1997. I remember it like it was now. Oh, this is wild. Thank you, Mrs. Amir, for guiding me to this. A mess suddenly broke out, a rush where they found a deceased girl inside the mangroves of the hotel. The people who have gone to the Rue Hotel know what I'm talking about. And you got to remember, too, the Taylor Casey from Chicago in the Bahamas almost a year ago now. And there are frozen mangroves inside the hotel and to the side. On either side, there are mangroves filled with water and trees. Well, this girl had been missing for a year and a half. And you even got to wonder about Natalie Holloway. Seriously. They were pouring a liquid on her body so that her body wouldn't have any kind of smell. Oh, man, that's disgusting. I'm so far behind on YouTube. Been dealing with my aunt's tragic loss. I'm so sorry, Sherry. That's awful. And yeah, I mean, you're just right where you're at. You haven't missed anything. I mean, it's all just a poop fest, right? Seriously. I'm really sorry about your aunt. In fact, they call here in Spain a jug. We call them gallons around her body. The jugs appeared with what they poured the liquid. They left them right there next to the body. And that body appeared because there were so many mosquitoes and there was a man in charge of fumigation and sent her to fumigate. Gross. Well, hold on. Well, inside the mangrove and found her when they found her. Only her curly hair remained and with the work uniform she had on. Oh, you're very welcome, Sherry. Mrs. Amir says, what's even scary is that Sonia is a common name in India, and now Saduska is also Indian. It is coincidence. Oh, Sonia and, huh. I say be careful if her fate was to be placed inside of the mangroves, because inside the hotel, hidden a lot when things happen inside the hotel. What happens inside the hotel stays inside the hotel. I worked in a hotel. I can vouch for that. Just like when they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Right. Part of it is like a confidentiality of professionalism. But yeah, if something is related to public safety, then I guess it would be on law enforcement to make that call and then share information accordingly. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, having said that, her boss never fired the girl. I remind you that in 1997, we were collecting that there was no resource. This was almost 25 years ago. Wait, there was no ATM. No resources. There was no ATM. If we didn't go to human resources, we would form a line around human resources at the door, and with our ID, they didn't pay us in an envelope. Because ATMs didn't exist. All of her checks that month vanished. Let's see. All her checks month after month. Did it accumulate inside human resources without the director or anyone from human resources raising an alarm saying, oh, and why are they gathering the envelopes of an employee? Here, the money does not come here. The money does not come to collect it. Sorry, this is so choppy. The room where I slept with the other girls who were left the bed, because also the housing manager didn't raise the alarm saying there's a bed left. But this closet has been here for over a year, and every time a girl comes, because there were girls who left and come because there are people who couldn't take the job and resigned and could only sleep in the bed, but she couldn't put her things inside the closet because the closet had a lock. Left the girl who they took her. Wait, this is so confusing. Left the girl who they took her life away. So then, having said this, I mean, where's Sadiska? She arrived on March 3rd, and by around the 5th, she disappeared and they can't find him. This is so annoying. Let's see. She arrived on March 3rd. We're almost done here. And they can't find him even on the land, nor by evil, nor by any part. And my question is, be careful. She is inside the bushes of the hotel. Hotel Rue, because of the Rue Hotel. Because the Rue Hotel knows very well how to hide the things that happen inside of what is told. Someone who worked at the Rue Hotel. No, I'm telling you just to tell you. But what happened in 1997 did not even make it in the news. This is why YouTube can be good. In fact, you should go now to search on Google. I wonder if it's been scrubbed. What happened in 1997 at the Rue Hotel with the girl who was found deceased, and it doesn't come out because it stayed. Now, this kind of potential trafficking is very much in line with The Handmaid's Tale. It's very much in line with what's happening in Russia. And what could be happening in our country and with the El Salvador prison, you guys. Just picking people up off the street, the ICE patrol or whatever you want to call them, the ICE officers in plain clothing with hoods over their faces. It's crazy, because if they're doing that, anybody can pretend that they're an ICE agent and do that to anybody if there's no just no due process. It's insane, isn't it? Between the hotels. So I wanted to tell you this story time about what has happened to the Rue Hotel in 97. And having said that, the one who unalived her was her boss, and who ordered her to be unalived, who was the head of the wait staff, head of the waiters. Yeah. Who they called Pedro. And in fact, for sure, there were more hands that helped, because I don't think that he later had the courage to see her already deceased to go pour the liquid on her. Oh man, that's so insane. Yeah, we are so sorry, Sherry. It's really so hard to lose someone you care about. Someone was responsible for pouring the liquid so that it wouldn't smell bad. I hope you enjoyed my story time about what happened at the Rue Hotel in 1997. It says 1900, but it's probably artificial intelligence that... Here, let's see what else he says on the channel. That was just the TikTok.
Phoenix 8 has evolved.
You can stop. I think that's their whole video, but let me see. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Wow, very interesting, huh? I'll put a like on that. Evil exists. Like I said, they do a great job. Okay, so you guys saw the big fumbling of the football trophy at the White House yesterday by the Vice President, JD. So I wouldn't have known that that trophy was in two pieces, but anybody who's ever watched the football championship would know, because when the football team is handed the trophy, they're just handed the top part that kind of looks like a gold cone. And those trophies, the materials are alone, because it is covered with real gold. The materials alone are like $22,000. So fortunately, that didn't hit the ground, because I'm sure it would have gotten dented and dinged at the very least. And then it weighs 35 pounds. And then the base weighs another 30 pounds. So when JD Vance tried to pick up the whole thing, he was making it obvious that he didn't know that they were disjointed, and that he had no idea that it was 65 pounds, because that's a lot to try to just pick up off of a table like that when you're wearing a suit and you're not like in your muscle t-shirt and, you know, with your big muscle belt on and everything. I mean, you want to like lift with your knees, right? You don't just want to like lean over and pick it up. So he was surrounded by the football playing, the team members that knew that the thing would come apart. They didn't know what he was going to do, but they were able to help and save from the top part, from the gold piece hitting the ground. So that was good. And in my opinion, it was all good. I mean, it was a great display of the buffoonery of every single thing that's happened in this administration, in my humble opinion. So Mr. Donnie was all there making this whole thing about him. Me. He had his fake Ohio State football jersey with number 47 on it that says Trump, of course. And his little flunky like stole the show with his big fumbling. And this is all going on simultaneous with them having basically burnt their administration down. Metaphorically, they've burnt the world down around them, and then they're trying to pretend that they didn't, and they're trying to just like move forward with all of their insanity because they can't stop, I think, for a couple of reasons. Jail, one reason, and the second reason is just that they are addicted to the power and the money. It's just like an addiction to rugs or Smex or anything else, shopping. They are completely addicted. And last night, sorry to be putting on chapstick. My lips get dry when I'm talking. Yesterday and last night, Bernie Sanders and AOC continued with their Stop the Oligarchy tour. They went to Coachella, I think the day before yesterday. Bernie spoke at the Coachella festival. And then yesterday, this is great, you guys. Yesterday, they spoke in Boise, Idaho, or right outside of Boise, Idaho. You know, Idaho is notoriously one of the most conservative states in our great nation. And the place was packed. I want to say that they said that there was over 12,000 people there, which is nowhere near as huge as like the 35,000 that was in LA or Vegas over the weekend, but they had a really good crowd. And you have to remember too that Idaho is not only obviously where the Idaho 4 happened, it's also where that young doctor woman was in the audience at a Republican town hall, and the 3 plainclothes guys basically abducted her out of the building. And there was a sheriff there, and this is a small town where everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows her because she's run for the council seat more than once. And she knew the sheriff by name, and she yelled out to the sheriff by name, who was at the other end of the room, you know, are these your men? Who are these guys? They're not identifying themselves. They're putting hands on me, and isn't this illegal? So I don't know what's going on with that, but it just was astonishing to me that Bernie and AOC were not only in Idaho, but that they were getting such a warm reception. So it's huge. It's huge. And then we all know, if we are watching the news, it's kind of hard not to for me. I mean, seriously, it's like I have to like try to not watch it because I'm just very compelled to want to keep my thumb on the pulse to see what the F is going on. So the El Salvadorian president that was in the Oval Office yesterday with Trumpsterfire, who was saying that there was nothing he could possibly do to smuggle. I mean, why did he use that word? I can't smuggle the thug back into the States. And, you know, they kept calling the guy who was illegally deported that they've been ordered to facilitate his return. They kept referring to him as a terrorist, basically. And I'm sorry, but both of those two douchebags sitting there in the Oval Office are the terrorists as far as I'm concerned. And then a lot of people, rightfully so, have brought up the fact that the El Salvadorian president was just basically dressed like a freaking mobster with his all black, the t-shirt, and then the blazer over it, no tie. And he didn't get asked why he was so disrespectful. You know, with Zelensky's commitment to his people and wearing the types of clothing that he could basically fight in. And yeah, I mean, he looks, I've said it before, he looks great in the outfit that he wears, like just, the long sleeve black shirt and the kind of cargo pants. Like he's ready to go, because he's actually gone on the front lines more than once. And he's made public statements many times that he's not going to put on a suit until the war is over. And so when Brian Glenn, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, started the harassing and bullying of him about his attire, that was just insane. That was so crazy. And then, it's like they just pile on. It's like they kick the dog while he's down. But I am happy to say that the reports about the horrible, horrible attacks on our U.S. territories as well as overseas, Russia has unalived many civilians, some children, at schools and other places that are not supposed to be targeted. And some of the people that passed away was on this past Sunday. And at the same time, Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania, the mansion that belongs to the state of Pennsylvania that him and his family reside in, was burnt to a crisp. You guys probably saw that. That was crazy. It wasn't just slightly burned, it was extremely burned. The whole story hasn't come out. I mean, they've arrested the guy. Some of the story they've shared on the news about how quickly he was able to breach the property and gain entry and do the damage that he did, I think all within like 2 minutes. And he was carrying a hammer on his person that he confessed he would have used to take out Governor Shapiro had he come across him. And mind you, that not only was it Passover, and of course Shapiro's family observes the Jewish holiday, there were 25 people total asleep in the house. So they had a big family gathering. And I think that they invited a lot of the community, it sounded like. But this big gathering, 25 people, many children, and they were all able to escape safely, and 2 dogs. But I think one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up, one of the most profound points about it to me, is our president not showing up and speaking out. He did speak out a little bit. Oh, that was bad. I mean, he really didn't make a big deal about it. But he also hasn't shown up or spoken out about all of the helicopters and planes that keep crashing, just like the big one that happened in the Potomac River with the Black Hawk chopper and the American Airlines and the 67 people on board the plane, and I think then an additional 4 in the chopper, or 3 in the chopper, or was it 64 on board and then 3 in the chopper, so 67 total, I think. Anyway, when he refused to go out to the scene of the crime, and I'm going to call it a crime because it should have been avoided. And his lack of showing respect and addressing these issues head on, to me, is almost an admission of guilt. Seriously. If he had nothing to do with it, wouldn't he show up and make some heartfelt statements? And if he had other things that he had to meet with the president of El Salvador or whatever, he was too busy winning all of his freaking golf matches, wouldn't he at least make a heartfelt statement publicly? But not if he's got something to hide. And I do, it's my opinion that he has a lot to hide. That's my opinion, that he's at the very least, not doing anything to stop these things from happening. And by not making a big to do about it, he's not doing anything to stop these things from happening. When that home was destroyed, the governor's mansion, and even before I saw how bad the damage was, even before then, I just thought, this doesn't happen in our country. Governors' mansions don't get attacked by arsonists. That does not happen on American soil historically. But right now, that's the freaking norm. And again, that's part of the flooding the zone, keeping everybody occupied, keeping the headlines to be about the chaos and the distractions, so we're not looking at the other crazy things that are going on, the executive orders that are being signed. So I want to be very clear in saying that if Elon Felon Muskrat had not joined forces with the Trumpsterfire and started dismantling all these government agencies, he was pretty much headed for jail, more than likely. He was being investigated for numerous breaches of safety, breaches of regulation, huge fines at the very least. But my guess is that he feared prison time, and that's why he was willing to go balls to the walls and spend every penny that he has, because he's got nothing to lose except his freedom. So let me take a breath, drink some coffee, ask you to make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider and turn on your notification bell to ring. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. I really appreciate you guys being here and being part of the conversation. Prayers for your whole family, Mrs. Amir says to Sherry. And yeah, absolutely. Oh, very sad. I don't know if you want to share like how old your aunt was, or what the tragedy was. I can't remember. If you might have shared it a few days ago, and I'm not remembering. If that's the case, I apologize. I really do have like the short attention span theater when I'm on live, so I'll confess to that. But I'm curious if you feel like sharing. I'm not gonna push. If you don't feel like sharing, that's cool too. But I know sometimes it's helpful to know people's names and details when you're praying. A lot of people think that your prayers are going to be more effective if you know the name and maybe like the state or something. It's not necessarily true, but some people think that it might be. Where's my eyeglasses cleaner? I do not know where my eyeglasses cleaner is, but I think I can find one real quick. One sec. Not fast enough. I will just rifle through my purse right in front of you guys so that you can know that I haven't forgotten you. I'm not leaving the room. I'm just trying to find one of my thingamabobs. I have so many, and then it's just like pens. You can never find them when you need them. It's crazy making, isn't it? It's ridiculous. There we go. Phew. See, I like the little ones that come in the pouch. I think they work the best, but the spray with the cloth, that works well too. And then I've got other cool little gadgets. Always trying to keep the glasses clean. It's nice to be able to see clearly, especially when I'm trying to read your comments and I don't want to miss letters or words. It might change the meaning of what you're saying. So yeah, we're definitely in a constitutional crisis, and for the most part, I'm just ready to resist, to fight metaphorically. It's like the harder the challenge, the more motivated some of us become to rise against it. And I want to be completely candid and honest. Of course, there are times, like last night was one of these times where I just am like so defeated, like, oh man, this is crazy. We're never going to win. and I just want to say that because, like I said, I want to be completely candid. But even in the event that you don't, winning to me is defined by giving it your best, no matter what, at all costs. You fight till the end. And that's what Zelensky has been doing with that horrible war that just keeps getting worse. But right now, they're winning. Ukraine is winning, and they have a lot of support from other nations in the tanking of our nation and our nation's economy and our nation's reputation, and aligning us with MFs like Vladdy and Kim Jong-un. In that process, we are losing our strength as a superpower. We're losing our economic strength. We're losing our credibility, our reputation. We've become the bad guys instead of the good guys. And I hope that a lot of the world recognizes that it's just the administration. It's not the people of the nation. This administration, I believe, stole the election, and not just with the $270 million from the big E, but I believe there was massive manipulation with the bombings, the purgings, and the tabulation. Oh, Elon is so good with the computers that count up the votes. Like, thank you, douchebag, for speaking the truth, because there are so many times that Trumpsterfire says things that he's telling the truth, and I don't think he meant to tell the truth. Now, I want to talk about one of the most heinous breaches of his own secrecy that I believe he made a few days ago, when he was in the Oval Office and he was on camera like he always is, and he was bragging about how all the world leaders were coming to him and begging him for, he went into character, because he's an actor, and he's like, oh, please, sir, please, I'll do anything at all, sir, please. And he was pretending that these were world leaders saying this. Please, sir, please, I'll do anything. And it sounded to me like something a hostage would say. Please, please, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. First of all, world leaders don't grovel like that. Even in a situation where they are groveling, they will do it much more diplomatically, much more professionally. These other world leaders that are speaking out against our United States fake government, in my opinion, they look so professional. Our people in positions of leadership right now, to me, are just clowns and jokers. And there was no better display of that than that insane cabinet meeting at the end of last week, again, where they were trying to distract from the economic fallout. They were trying to distract from Signalgate that, they tried to close. We're not talking about that anymore. We're going to talk about this fake cabinet meeting that we're having, where we all sit around and talk about how much we love Donnie and how we're so lucky that we get to be around him, and we're all a big family, and we don't know anything about the jobs that we're assigned to, but we do know how to suck up, which is the job that we were assigned to, right? So that was completely insane. But again, when they do those stupid, crazy things like that, as much as I'm like gagging and just in complete and utter disbelief, I'm also very grateful that they're putting it on full display so that it's plain to see. Because a lot of people, I don't think, believe that it's as bad as it is. I think a lot of people believe the propaganda, but I think more people are willing to pretend that they believe the propaganda. I don't think that many people actually believe the propaganda. I don't think the people around the freaking table in the cabinet meeting even believe the propaganda. They just know that if they suck up, that they're going to get a lot of money, and that they've already gotten a lot of money, and they'll continue to get a lot of money. And if they don't suck up, they might be in a helicopter or a plane that goes down. Seriously. Gotta go. Love you. Thanks for coming in, Sherry. Yeah, prayers for you and your family, my dear. Take care. So yeah, those are the things that were the most important that I really wanted to talk about today. The letter from the doctor. I want to talk about that too. Oh, and I wanted to talk about Ivana's deceased exes, you guys. Mrs. Amir, if you're still here. Here, let me see if I can put it on. It was on Top Chat. I don't know if I'll be able to put it on. I'm not going to mess with it. I was going to try to put it on live chat, but yeah, I don't think my cursor's back and the touch screen isn't working so well. So remember, if you remember, whoever's watching, that Ivana has been married 3 other times other than to Donnie. So she was married for a couple of years to a friend for citizenship to escape Czechoslovakia that was part of the USSR at the time. And her father was the equivalent of a KGB agent, allegedly, for the entire 27 years that she was then married to Donnie. But after Donnie and her got a divorce and he married Marla Maples, she married Italian guy number 1. They were married for a couple of years. He was a lot older than her. She sued him for breach of confidentiality. She sued him for $20 million after the divorce. And then she married second Italian guy that was a lot younger than her. And both of those guys have passed away. The first husband is still alive, the one that was from Austria. He's in his 70s. But back when I was researching her exes and how they passed away or where they were when they passed away, I had to look really hard. It's hard to find the information. It's definitely been scrubbed. I think a lot of that type of stuff gets scrubbed by the powers that be. And I was watching a half-hour documentary about Ivana and over the weekend, and there was another Italian significant other that I didn't know about that she was with for almost 10 years. I think I have it in my notes. Let me see if I do. And it might be in my other book. Let's see. Let me see if I have it right here. I'm trying to transition out of this book because it's all full. So I didn't think I needed it. But here it is. Count Raffredo Gaetani. Count Raffredo Gaetani. He passed away in 2005. He was with Ivana from 97, which was when she was divorced from the first husband after Donnie. Yeah. And then she was with him all the way up until he passed away, which, like I said, I think it was close to 9 years in between her marriages after Donnie. So he passed away. We'll just call him the Count since he's got such an exotic name. He passed away on December 23rd of 2005. He was a boxer. He was a champion boxer. He was a businessman. He passed away when he was only 52 years old. And he was in a single motor vehicle accident in Italy. So it was 2 days before Christmas. He was in Italy to visit his family for the holiday. He was in a rental car and he drove himself off of a cliff, allegedly. I find that extremely curious. So all 3 of her significant others after her marriage to Donnie, they were all tall, dark, and Italian. All 3 of them, I'm pretty sure. At least the last 2, this guy and then the one who passed away when he was 49. So the one that passed away when he was 49, the last one, and she was married to him only for about 18 months, but they were still an item. So I think altogether they were an item for about 10 years, all the way up until he passed away. He passed away only roughly 6 months before her, maybe 7 or 8 months before her. I think it was like in the late fall, early winter. And then I think that was 2022. And then, no, he would have passed away 2021. Fall, winter 2021, sorry. And then she passed away July 14th of 2022. And then fast forward 2 years and Donnie gets his lobe scraped by whiz bang, allegedly on July 13th of 2024. So 2 years, one day before the 2-year anniversary of Ivana's passing. And for anybody who doesn't know, anniversaries are really, really hard for tragedy, for trauma, for loss. And when somebody close to you passes away, the first anniversary of that is most likely by far the hardest. Each subsequent anniversary is still really hard. It is a possibility that the Trumpsterfire's children, Ivana's 3 children, that they had such a hard time with that 1-year anniversary in 2023 that Donnie didn't want to go through with that again for the second anniversary, 2024. So there's a possibility that it could have been an orchestrated, not real attempt on him. And I've always thought that, but I've been very hesitant to say it in the event that it was real. Like, that's a really rude thing to question in the event that it's not faked. However, I think time will tell. And since it's happened, which now it's been like 8 months-ish, 9 months, there's been nothing to confirm that it actually happened. In fact, in the little medical assessment that Donnie got a letter from a doctor for recently, that all of a sudden this last weekend, when he's just desperate for distractions, he did the little fake cabinet thing at the end of last week. And then over the weekend, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I've got my letter here, clean bill of health. If anybody's interested, I thought you might be. I'm super smart. I passed everything really well. I got gold stars. I got to pick out my favorite flavor lollipop and everything. I mean, is it so weird how he talks about how like he performed, that, that he got all the answers right, that the doctor said that it's the best anybody's ever done on any test like it. And I think that there's even a mention of a scrape on his cartilage. I say lobe because he said that. The lobe heals really quickly. I'm a fast healer. It's just not plausible what he claims. And for a long time, he said that there was no scar. Now, all of a sudden, in this little medical thing, he's trying to say that there was a scar. Which is it? You can't have it both ways. And then something that I find profoundly hilarious, if it wasn't so disgusting, is his bone spurs, the imaginary bone spurs that he had that got him out of fighting in the Vietnam War, that there's never mention of in any of his clean bills of health. Everybody's talking about the letter stating that he's 6'3" and 224 pounds. And I mean, it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. We all shrink as we get older. It's just a fact of life. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter what a big man you are. It just doesn't matter. Your bone density, gravity, you shrink. The man is almost 80. He'll be 79 this June. There were all those rumors about a $95 million birthday parade, that now there's rumors that they're not going to do that because all the bad publicity, all the pushback. But you don't know with him. You can't trust anything he says. If he says he's going to do something, you can't trust that he's going to do it. If he says he's not going to do something, you can't trust that he's not going to do it. He's extremely unstable. His intellectual capacity is diminishing. Some of that is just going to be age. Some of that is just going to be stress. And some of that is potentially a medical situation like dementia that people keep bringing up. So he does show a lot of the clinical earmarks of dementia. There's nothing to be ashamed of for anybody who has that. That's a normal part of aging for a lot of people. And it's important to be honest with yourself and be honest with the public. I mean, it's not just public safety for our country. It's public safety globally at this point in time. So if he's being dishonest about what's really going on, and remember the Dr. Harold Bornstein, who signed the letter that he dictated years ago, that before he before his first presidential term, it said he was the healthiest specimen of a president that the country has ever had. And that man, Harold Bornstein, said that he had his medical practice basically raided by 3 of Donnie's thugs, possibly. They took all of Donnie's medical records and nothing else. And then 2 days after the insurrection, Harold Bornstein passed away unexpectedly from at an undisclosed location. So if anybody has ever found a disclosed cause of loss of life or a disclosed cause or a place of location, please share in the comments, because I've never been able to find anything on Harold Bornstein. So Harold Bornstein had been Donnie's physician for about 18 years, and he inherited that role from his father, who I believe was Donnie and Donnie's father's physician for like 35 years before he retired. But his mysterious passing 2 days after the insurrection, and that was a couple of years after his office was ransacked, while he was there, while they were, during business operating hours. So, I mean, it sounded like it was really scary for the employees that were there, that these 3 big dudes just came in and, they didn't know what they were gonna do. They didn't know if they were gonna, like, hurt them or hold them hostage or burn the place down or what. They took the files, I think they made a giant mess, and that was that. And that's, I think, when Bornstein started speaking out a little bit. So we all see what happens to anybody who decides to speak out a little bit, right? And I think Ivana's 49-year-old ex-husband, so they had recently, before the last one's passing in fall of 2021, they had competed on the Italian version of Dancing with the Stars. So they were definitely still a couple. And she took care of him to the end. And he allegedly passed away from cancer and I want to say like an aneurysm or something. There were like 3 major causes of passing, which is weird because you only get one, really. You might have others that contribute, you might have others that coincide. You might have 2 things that, the comorbidity, you can't really tell which it was, or it was the combination of the 2. But I think it was like cardiac arrest, cancer, and some type of aneurysm, all simultaneously. But Ivana cared for him as they were still married, I believe. I mean, they weren't still married, but she cared for him as though they were. And then she passed away 9 months after him at the age of 73, completely unexpected. We all know, I've gone over this dozens of times. The day before these giant week-long depositions were scheduled to begin for Donnie Jr., and Ivanka to go over the information of Donnie's fraudulent claims of financial inequities. And those claims, all 3 of those depositions got postponed indefinitely because of Ivana's passing and the funeral. She passed allegedly of a heart attack and of contusions. And I'm pretty sure law enforcement knew as soon as they arrived that there were no signs of foul play. I'm being sarcastic, of course, because you don't know those things right off the bat, but they said so right up front. There's no signs of foul play. There's no suspicion of foul play. And then saying that she died of both, where it's like, well, which one? Did she have a heart attack at the top of the stairs and then passed away from the contusions and passed away from the heart attack simultaneously? Is that what you're trying to say? Or did she not really fall down the stairs? Or was she alone when she fell down the stairs? Did somebody assist her with falling down the stairs? It's very suspicious. So, yeah, very suspicious. So they did finally do those depositions, and the charges of the financial fraud, Donnie was afraid could prevent him from being a candidate for president ever again. Obviously, it didn't. He was charged with 34 felonious counts. I believe every single one of those is from the financial fraud, where he was grossly overstating the value of his properties so that he could borrow giant sums of money from the banks with lower interest rates. This is a theme in his life. He's constantly broke. He's constantly hard up for billions of dollars. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So I don't want to miss mentioning the rocket ship that flew into orbit yesterday with all females. Gayle King and Katy Perry were on that rocket. And it was pretty cool. I watched it on House Sparks. You know, it just went up super high. I don't know how high, but you know, I think they were like right next to the moon or something. I mean, I'm joking, but pretty wild and pretty high risk. So the rocket flew from Texas and landed in Texas, and it was one of Bezos's rockets, and it was a successful mission, and that's pretty wild. That's all I'll say about that. Because there might be some other things that I needed to talk about. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to make a little like joke about being terrified, you know, like terrified. Like that's kind of like where our world is at right now. Everyone's being terrified. These are, in my opinion, these tariffs are acts of war and they're terrorist attacks. And they just, El Presidente keeps flip-flopping. He keeps changing his mind. He keeps changing his story. He keeps messing up business for a lot of people. And he doesn't care. It's been my opinion that that's his goal, is to destroy our nation, destroy our economy, and that he's doing that for Vladdy. That he owes Vladdy so much money from 20 or more years ago that it doesn't matter how much he ever pays him, that the loan shark interest rates, he'll never be able to repay him fully. So he's basically the guy's slave and puppet, in my estimation. So it's pretty grim. And I don't know how much more chaos and criminal type of behavior he has to perform before there's serious efforts from our population and from Congress to make him stop. You know, he's got immunity because he's El Presidente. He's got immunity because he's rigged the courts. And yet, thank goodness for entities like Harvard speaking out against him yesterday at the risk of losing billions of dollars. And not just the risk, but actually losing billions of dollars. Like, that's how you have to do it. There's really no option unless you're okay with maybe being locked up in a prison in El Salvador for the rest of your life, or your loved ones being locked up in a prison in El Salvador and maybe their lives being greatly shortened. So there was a hot mic, I guess, yesterday at the White House when Donnie was discussing with the president of El Salvador how he is wanting more prisons, bigger prisons, and that the homegrowns are going to be next. The homegrowns. Yeah. She's not talking about Mary Jane. It's just crazy. And they're the way they are mishandling the court's orders to facilitate the return of the prisoner who was illegally detained. They're just being goofballs. Like, they're not even making sense. Their reasoning and their excuses and the things that they're saying, they're not even making sense. It's crazy. It's nuts. So, yeah, the wins at golf in the medical letter from the physician, that we can tell he's so healthy because he's always winning his golf games. Like, how do you even respond to something so absurd? absurd. And his comments, I aced it. I did really well. I passed with flying colors. He needs constant approval. Like, good for you. I'm glad you're healthy, but you sure don't look it. When was the last time he ate a vegetable? I guess if you count ketchup as a vegetable, then it was probably today or yesterday, right? Mamma mia. Or if you count French fries as a vegetable. So this guy, Scott Bessent, have you guys heard Scott Bessent speaking? He's the Secretary of the Treasury. This man is a buffoon. This man seems to me that he's on the verge of giving himself an aneurysm or a heart attack with all of this lying and the concepts of a policy that he keeps claiming they have. Basically, he literally in an interview literally said this 4 times, said this. The only other person that I've noticed doing that in recent years was NK in the Watts case. This. What is this? What are you talking about? What are you not wanting to say? Oh, and then Mr. T saying the attacker was not a fan of me, but he calls himself in the third person. The attacker was not a fan of Mr. T. It's like, actually, I'm pretty sure he says he was a fan of Mr. T. And then he says, we always have to obey the laws. We don't even know what the laws are about the homegrowns and the deportations, but, we'll look into it. We'll figure out the laws because we always have to apply by the laws. It's like, you do always have to apply by the laws, except that you don't do that anyway. And it's your job to know the law. So why are you saying you don't know the law? Like, that's crazy. That is crazy. And then he said this yesterday, I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible. I don't want to hurt people. It's like, sometimes it seems like people say the exact opposite of what's true, and there's no reason to say it. Like, we are all allowed to change our minds, and we all do change our minds when we get more information or the situation changes. And you're allowed to just simply change your mind because you decided to change your mind. Like, everyone's got that freedom. But that's not called being flexible when you're flip-flopping and wishy-washy. That's called being indecisive. That's called being confused or being confusing. And saying that I don't want to hurt people, really? Because he's made statements completely contradicting that. And his actions completely contradict that. It seems like he enjoys hurting people, that there's like a thrill in that, the way a true psychopath enjoys hurting people, enjoys seeing the fear in people's eyes, enjoys people sucking up, saying, oh, please, sir, please, I'll do anything. And one last greatly concerning quote that he said on a hot mic this last week. It sounded like, I'm not saying that this is what he said because it could be manipulated, or it could be that he said something about cranberry sauce. He said to a handful of other world leaders, I believe that he may have said, those hostages last night were great. And I will put a link to that in the description. I'm trying to remember which channel it was. I'll put the link in the description to the channel, but I'm trying to remember. It was Hal Sparks. So I think that other channels have discussed it too, but I think that was the one where I saw it. So I'll try to find the timestamp for that. Oh, I know right where it is. Let me see if I can play it for you. That would be cool, huh? And then we'll wrap up. Ketchup and French fries. That's lots of vegetables. Mrs. Amir, thank you for being here. I'm kind of winding down because I looked up and I saw there was only one person, but now there's 3. So, and thanks for everybody hitting the like button. That's really cool. 3 people and 4 likes. That must be fraudulent then. No, I'm just kidding. So let me see if I can find this thing that I'm talking about where it sounds like he says, oh, there's this great song. I'll put a link to this in the description too. It's a parody of I Shot the Sheriff, I Paused the Tariff. There's a lot of good songs out like that. People get so creative. And let's see. Okay, it's 2 minutes in on this Hal Sparks. It's called Hal Sparks Mega World Trump Blinked. And like I said, I will put a link to it in the description. But 2 minutes in, let's see if I can play it for you. Thank you for your patience while I try to cue this up. I think Netanyahu was one of the people. Oh, and it wasn't in the Oval Office. It was outside.
I'm just going to do it again because there you go. Trump had his little gaggle with people over here where he had sort of a hot mic where he said he either, I can't be 100% sure because it's not really clear, he either ate some hostages or fucked them last night. The hostages were fantastic last night. Now, I know what you're thinking, Hal. Everybody's that sentence is practically a modern colloquialism. Who doesn't say those hostages were fantastic last night? The fuck is right? And then they talk about the market going up 7 points. And then he wants credit for being a record because he crashed it and then it goes back up halfway. And he's like, it's amazing. The fastest rise in whatever. I'm like, motherfucker, you don't get to like collapse a mine with miners inside of it and then get points for digging them out halfway.
Okay. How long did I play? I played 1 minute and 24 seconds. And how many times did he drop the F-bomb? It's probably okay at the end of my video. So Mrs. Amir says, I'm going to try to email you the pictures of little T throwing his ketchup, because I know he uses the little tiny ketchup bottles. He loves his ketchup. And he gets very infuriated and he throws the tiny ketchup bottles at the wall in his feeding room. And the reason why he uses the tiny ones is because he's concerned that somebody might try to put poison in his ketchup, allegedly. Word on the street, anyway. So yeah, that Hal Sparks thing. Those hostages last night were great. Okay. Shall we try to say a prayer and wrap up? Let's see. Yeah, I want to say too that I was kind of annoyed with a lot of our mainstream media with the family that passed away in that helicopter crash on the Hudson in New York City. I think that was Friday, maybe Thursday. The family of 5, the mom, the dad, the 3 children. So the mom was celebrating her 40th birthday, was why they were on this vacation from Spain. And then one of the kids, I think it was one of the girls, was having her 9th birthday. I think the kids, the youngest was 4 or 5, and then there was the one turning 9, and then there was the 11-year-old. In early reports, it said that there was a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And then you look at the pictures, and it's like there's a little kid and 2 big kids. So I was wondering what was going on with that. Anyway, the helicopter just falls apart and falls out of the sky. And I've watched the news pressers about it, where they are being very factual and not speculating. And they're saying that they're not sure if there could have been a flock of geese, which I'm pretty sure that might have been, you would have seen some evidence of that by now. Or that it could have been mechanical failure, but they're not going to speculate. But even that to me is speculating, because sure, mechanical failure could cover the potential sabotage, but the way that helicopter falls apart in pieces makes me think that there's a high likelihood that it was sabotaged. Not to mention the parents both being powerhouses for the Siemens Group, that is a company, a worldwide conglomerate based in Germany, that is in direct competition with people like the Big E. And then you take the airplane that crashed in the field in upstate New York yesterday or the day before with the family of 6. And both of the parents, the dad was flying the airplane. He was a surgeon. The mom's a surgeon too. So they both are high up in the medical profession. And then the daughter was a rising star in the medical profession, the one that had been named Woman of the Year in 2022, the NCAA Woman of the Year from MIT. So it just doesn't seem very likely. Like, sure, the people who fly these small crafts are going to be successful, wealthy people, right? But that they just happen to be so prominent in these specific fields, what are the freaking chances? What are the freaking chances? And all of the other crashes that have happened in between those two. I mean, we're talking about a period of like 4 days, and I can't even keep up. There was the one with 3 people on it in Florida that crashed about 28 minutes drive north of Mar-a-Lago, Boca Raton, and it had the Stark family on it. So the granddad, businessman, then the father, businessman. So I think the granddad was in his 70s, the father was in his 50s, and then the daughter was 17 years old. And where did I put their names? I've been holding off because I want to know what type of business the Stark family ran. I've done some research on it, and it's hard to discern because that's a fairly common last name. It seems from my preliminary findings that the Stark family might be researched or real estate developers from my research. So I don't know for sure, but I do know for sure that it crashed a 28-minute drive north of Mar-a-Lago in Boca Raton, which is where the granddad was from. And then the dad and the daughter were from south of there, by like Palm Beach, south of Miami, I think. So the last thing I want to say about, I haven't really touched on any of the mining issues, which I think is largely behind all of this effing chaos and the terrifying tariffs and all, that a company like Tesla is designed and invented and made to be green and conserve our planet's resources. And the irony is that the mining of the lithium seems potentially worse than drilling for oil, let's say. So you get this car that has minimum emissions, and so it's abiding by that law of minimizing the emissions, and yet it's destroying the earth at a more rapid rate in efforts to make that car. Like, so the motivation isn't really to save the planet. That has nothing to do with it. The motivation is just to sell cars. And the laws have been changing, saying that you have to have these low emission cars or they're not going to be on the road. So it's just insane right now, isn't it? Just all these changes, and with artificial intelligence. Okay, that's the last thing I want to mention, and then we'll wrap it up. The A1 sauce. You guys heard Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, did at least 2 presentations that were long where she referred to artificial intelligence in children's education as A1 for the entire duration of each of those presentations. A1. Nobody corrected her. She didn't have a clue what AI is. She doesn't have a clue about education and the future of our children's learning and skills is in the hands of a World Wrestling Federation queen who doesn't know and doesn't care to know. I mean, even retroactively, she could make a statement and say, oh, how embarrassing. I should have known that A1 was actually AI. Like, my guess is they'll try to scrub all that off the internet, but the damage is done. I mean, this crap has got to stop. I can't deal with seeing Carolyn Levitt one more time. Or Pam Bondi. These Barbie dolls, these vicious Barbie dolls. Ugh, laugh or cry. All right, you guys. I hope you have a really good rest of your day. Sorry, I was not able to make a video yesterday. I had to do some personal stuff and help a friend out. So, I always like to do that if and when my friends need me for stuff. It's nice to have the flexibility that I'm able to be there. So, have a really good rest of your day and eat your veggies, eat your protein. It's only 1 p.m. I feel like we could go on, but we should probably wrap it up. So yeah, I'll look for your email, Mrs. Amir, JusticeAtooZ@gmail.com for anyone who wants to send me an email. And I thank you in advance. And I thank you after the fact just for being a humongous part of my chat today. I'll look forward to hopefully having an opportunity to make a video of crime and politics every day this week. Maybe I wanted to say one more thing about the Idaho 4, which is what an effed up situation, right? I think that's all I'll say about that. What an effed up situation. I mean, we still have these people. Let me say this before I wrap up. In these situations, like Idaho 4, like Kylie Rodney, like Sadusky, like Taylor Casey, in all of these situations, if it's human trafficking with any of them or none of them, we know that human trafficking happens. We know that this stuff with El Salvador is an element of human trafficking. People get disappeared and they don't have any control over their destiny. People get disappeared and their families don't ever know what happened to them. Or Natalie Holloway was the other one I wanted to throw in there. In most of these situations I just mentioned, I think that it's highly likely that these people are deceased and that there's a giant cover-up. However, just the fact that it could be trafficking is frightening enough. For instance, with the Taylor Casey, you had this woman traveling alone. You had reportedly a man kind of tailing her, kind of shadowing her, kind of following her. And then she disappears. And for all we know, that's could have happened to Natalie Holloway. For all we know, Natalie Holloway was trafficked or even potentially still is trafficked. Like I said, I don't think that's very likely. I think that she probably had a medical episode from being rugged and assaulted that night. And I do think she was trafficked that night. But what's so horrifying is that if it can be covered up as, say, Kylie Rodney's cause of not existing anymore has been covered up, then it can be covered up to make it look like that person has passed away so that they can be trafficked. That has been going on for decades in our country. They used to just call it white slavery. It's kind of a racist term because you didn't have to be white to be sold into white slavery. Now it's called trafficking. And there are a lot of people who deny that it exists, but we know that it does. And with the Idaho 4, we got to come back to when were the remains of those 4 college kids ever removed from the residence of 1122 King Road? When were they removed? What WTF? What is up with that, you guys? There's a lot with that case, but I just keep coming back to that. When were the remains of the victims removed? When and how? Okay, I'm wrapping up. Be well, think good thoughts, take care of yourself, love and light, get some fresh air, sunshine, and exercise, and drink your water. And I'll have to do it like this. We'll see you soon. End stream.